HOA Karen floods her townhouse story. I never thought I would become the kind of person who actually reads through HOA bylaws for fun, but Karen Miller changed that about me. When I moved into Riverside Meadows, a quiet townhouse community about 30 minutes outside the city, I was just looking for a peaceful place to work remotely and maybe finally use my law degree for something other than corporate contract review. The townhouse was perfect, modern construction, granite countertops, and a small patio where I could drink my morning coffee. What I did not account for was living 2 doors down from the HOA president, who treated her volunteer position like she was running a small dictatorship. Karen was exactly what you would picture: late 40s, highlighted blonde hair always styled like she was about to attend a real estate open house, and an SUV with a custom license plate that read, HOA Boss. I met her on my second day when she knocked on my door holding a clipboard and wearing a blazer despite it being 90 degrees outside. Hello, I'm Karen Miller, HOA President. I noticed you haven't submitted your exterior paint approval form. Your shutters are Benjamin Moore's Chelsea Gray, but they need to be Kindle Charcoal to match community standards. I blinked at her, still holding the box I had been unpacking. They are both gray. She smiled, but her eyes did not. The bylaws are very specific. I will need you to repaint within 30 days or face a $50 per day fine. That was just the beginning. Over the next few months, I received violation notices for everything imaginable. My welcome mat was 2 inches too wide. My patio furniture was made of resin instead of the approved wrought iron or treated wood. I had placed a small herb garden on my patio, but apparently planters could only be terracotta, not the ceramic ones I had purchased. Each violation came with the same passive-aggressive note paper clipped to the notice. Just trying to keep our community beautiful, Karen Miller, HOA President. Before you hit that skip button, do me a favor and smash that like button if you have ever dealt with an unreasonable neighbor, and subscribe to Karen Eat World for more stories of petty tyrants getting exactly what they deserve. Trust me, this one gets good. The thing about Karen was that she did not enforce these rules equally. Mrs. Patterson 3 houses down had been using decorative metal flamingos in her yard for years. The Johnsons had Christmas lights up until March. But me? I could not put out a doormat without getting a citation. I started to realize this was personal when I ran into Karen at the community pool. I had been doing laps early one Saturday morning when she appeared poolside, fully dressed, holding her ever-present clipboard. I need to inform you that pool hours for residents begin at 7 a.m. You arrived at 6:53 a.m. according to the security log. I treaded water, staring at her in disbelief. It is 7 minutes. She made a note on her clipboard. Rules exist for a reason. Next time, it will be a formal violation. I decided to try the reasonable approach first. I requested a meeting with the HOA board, thinking perhaps if I addressed the full committee, I could point out the selective enforcement. The meeting was held in the community clubhouse, and I arrived with a folder of documentation showing other residents who were not being cited for similar or worse violations. Karen sat at the head of the table like she was chairing a corporate board meeting, with 3 other board members who mostly looked uncomfortable. I presented my case calmly and professionally. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm simply requesting that rules be enforced fairly across all residents. Karen listened with a tight smile, then responded, "What I'm hearing is that you want us to cite more residents. Because that can certainly be arranged. Or, you could simply follow the rules as written, and we would not have this problem." The other board members said nothing. Later, I learned that Karen had been president for 6 years and had systematically replaced anyone who disagreed with her. The board was essentially just her rubber stamp committee. Things escalated after that meeting. Suddenly, I was receiving violation notices twice a week. My car was parked 3 inches over my designated parking space line. My trash bin was visible from the street for 15 minutes past the allowed time on collection day. She even cited me because a delivery package sat on my porch for 2 hours, claiming it violated the community aesthetics policy. The fines were adding up, $50 here, $75 there. I paid them, documenting everything, because I had learned a long time ago that the best defense is a perfect paper trail. Then Karen made her first real mistake. She decided that my plumbing was too loud. I received a violation notice claiming that my water usage pattern created excessive pipe noise audible to neighboring units, creating a nuisance under Section 12.4 of the community bylaws. I am a single person who showers once a day and runs a dishwasher maybe 3 times a week. There was no possible way my plumbing was creating a nuisance. When I questioned this, Karen informed me that SHE could hear it through the shared wall, and that was sufficient evidence. She demanded I hire a licensed plumber to assess and remedy the situation at my own expense or face escalating fines. This is where my background became relevant. I had not advertised it to my neighbors, but I had spent 10 years doing real estate law before transitioning to contract work, and I had made some very good investments during that time. I also had connections throughout the city's construction and property development world. I made a few calls, and within a week, I had a licensed plumber come out. He inspected everything, ran water through every fixture, and provided a written report stating that all plumbing was up to code and operating normally, with noise levels well within acceptable ranges for townhouse construction. I submitted this report to Karen, along with a $400 invoice for the inspection, requesting reimbursement since the complaint was baseless. She denied it, naturally, and added another violation for failing to adequately address the documented noise issue. The fines were now up to $200 per week. I consulted with my attorney friend over drinks, and she laughed when I showed her the documentation. This is harassment. You could sue her personally and probably win. But honestly, the legal fees would cost more than just moving. I smiled into my wine glass. Who said anything about moving? I started doing research. Deep research. I pulled up every property record, every HOA meeting minute, every bylaw revision for the past decade. I requested documents under the state's Homeowner Association transparency laws. And that is when I found it. The little golden thread I could pull. Karen's townhouse, Unit 7, shared not just a wall with my unit, but also a complex plumbing stack. Our buildings had been constructed in 2 phases, and due to a cost-saving measure by the original developer, Unit 6, 7, and 8 all shared a main water line before it branched into individual units. This was disclosed in the original property documents, but was not common knowledge among current residents. More importantly, I discovered that Karen had done several unpermitted renovations to her unit over the years. She had installed a high-end spa shower system with multiple jets and rainfall heads. She had added a bathroom to what was originally a closet. And most critically, she had installed all of this herself, without permits, using what I suspected was not exactly professional-grade work. I knew this because she had bragged about it on the community Facebook page 2 years earlier, posting photos of herself in a hardware store with the caption, "HOA president does not need to pay contractor prices. DIY for the win." I hired a private inspector, not for my unit, but to provide an expert opinion on the shared plumbing infrastructure. His report was illuminating. The shared main line was under significantly more stress than it was designed for due to the additional fixtures in Karen's unit. Furthermore, her unpermitted work had likely violated multiple building codes. But here was the beautiful part. Because of the shared infrastructure, any plumbing failure in her unit would not just affect her. It would impact the entire stack, including my unit and Mrs. Chen's unit on the other side. I sat on this information for a few weeks, paying Karen's escalating fines while I watched and waited. Then it happened naturally, no intervention from me required. On a Tuesday evening, I heard it. A tremendous rushing sound, like Niagara Falls, was suddenly flowing through the walls. Then shouting. Karen's voice shrieking. No, no, no. Oh my God. I calmly walked outside and saw water beginning to seep under Karen's front door. Mrs. Chen had also emerged from her unit, staring in shock. Within minutes, water was pouring out, running down the sidewalk. Karen burst out of her front door, soaking wet, her perfect hair plastered to her head, screaming into her phone. I need a plumber right now. Emergency. The whole bathroom just exploded. I called 911 to report flooding that might affect the building's structural integrity, which brought the fire department. I also called the county building inspector's office to report a potential code violation affecting multiple units. Then I just stood back and watched the show. The plumber arrived first and had to shut off water to the entire building. He emerged from Karen's unit shaking his head, and I was close enough to hear him talking to her. Ma'am, who installed this shower system? This is not up to code at all. These connections are not even properly sealed. You have got broken pipes, water damage throughout the wall cavity, and I am pretty sure this whole setup was never permitted. The fire inspector went in next, followed by the county building inspector I had called. Karen was standing in her wet clothes, mascara running down her face, trying to explain. I just turned on the shower and everything exploded. The pipes must have been defective. The building inspector was taking photos and making notes. Ma'am, do you have permits for this bathroom renovation? These fixtures? This additional plumbing? That is when I stepped forward with my folder. I had printed everything. The Facebook post where she bragged about her DIY work. The inspector's report about the shared plumbing infrastructure. The original building plan showing her bathroom addition was not part of the original unit design. And most importantly, all of her violation notices to me about my supposedly problematic plumbing. Excuse me, Inspector. I'm the resident of Unit 9, and I have some documentation that might be relevant. You see, I was recently cited by our HOA president for excessive plumbing noise and forced to hire a licensed plumber to inspect my systems. Everything was up to code on my end. But given that we share plumbing infrastructure, and given this flooding is now affecting multiple units, I thought this might be important. The inspector took my folder and started flipping through it, his expression growing more serious. Karen's face went from confused to pale as she realized what I was handing over. This shows unpermitted work? And she cited you for plumbing issues? He looked at Karen. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to come down to the permit office tomorrow. We are going to have to do a full inspection of your unit and assess damages to the shared infrastructure. If you performed unpermitted plumbing work that resulted in damage to other units, that's a serious violation. But I was not done. While the inspector was talking to Karen, I was on the phone with my lawyer. Within an hour, she had drafted a preliminary demand letter, which I hand-delivered to Karen that evening, after the water had been shut off, and she was sitting in her flooded townhouse. The letter outlined my intent to sue her personally for harassment, for abuse of her HOA authority, for property damage caused by her negligent unpermitted work affecting the shared plumbing, and for reimbursement of all fines she had levied against me. The amount I was demanding? $50,000. Karen's hand shook as she read it. You cannot sue me. I'm the HOA president. I was just enforcing the rules. I smiled pleasantly. Actually, you were selectively enforcing rules while you yourself were in violation of county building codes. You caused property damage through your negligent DIY work. And you abused your position to harass me with baseless complaints. My attorney is very confident. But here is the thing, Karen. I do not actually want your money. I want something else. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. What? Your resignation as HOA president, effective immediately. A written apology to be posted in the community newsletter. Reimbursement of every fine you have ever charged me. And you will not contest any of it. You will also agree to bring your unit up to code at your own expense and cover any costs to repair the shared plumbing infrastructure you damaged. In exchange, I will not pursue the lawsuit. You have 24 hours to decide. I walked back to my unit and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, a handwritten note was slipped under my door. It was Karen's resignation letter, along with a check for the fines and a shaky signature on the agreement my attorney had drafted. But the real victory came 2 weeks later, when the county inspector's full report came back. Karen's unpermitted work had caused over $30,000 in damage to the shared plumbing system and surrounding structures. Her homeowner's insurance denied the claim because the damage resulted from unpermitted work. She was going to have to pay for all of it out of pocket, plus bring everything up to code, which meant essentially gutting and rebuilding her entire master bathroom and the illegal addition. The final twist? During the investigation, the inspector found several other code violations in her unit. Electrical work that was not up to standard. A removed load-bearing wall that should have had a beam installed. Each violation came with its own fine and required correction. By the time it was all totaled up, Karen was looking at over $60,000 in repairs and penalties. I saw her one last time, about a month later. She was loading boxes into her SUV, the one with the HOA boss license plate. Her townhouse had a for sale sign in front. She looked over at me, standing on my patio with my ceramic herb planters and my 2-inch 2-wide welcome mat. Our eyes met for just a moment, and I raised my coffee mug in a small salute. The look on her face was something I will never forget. It was the exact moment she realized that her obsessive need to control everyone else had been her complete and total undoing, that in her quest to cite me for imaginary plumbing problems she had drawn attention to her own very real violations, and that the person she had dismissed as just another resident to push around had the knowledge, resources, and patience to let her destroy herself with her own actions. She quickly looked away, got in her SUV, and drove off. I never saw Karen Miller again. If you enjoyed watching Karen's petty power trip flood away, literally, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Karen Eat World for more stories of entitled people getting served the justice they deserve. Drop a comment and let me know what you would have done in this situation. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge is just giving someone enough rope to hang themselves, or in this case, enough bad plumbing to drown in their own mistakes.